Hey everyone, welcome to Be the Change. My name is Lily Mott, and today I'm going to be talking about how change comes when we work backwards. I am so excited to share this episode with you today, and we are going to dive right in. My guest today is Mya-Breyana Morton, and she is a director, cinematographer, and a co founder of the Production Circle. So without further ado, let's get started with this episode featuring Mya-Breyana Morton.
So my name is Mya-Breyana Morton. I am a director and cinematographer from Atlanta, Georgia. I started my journey about 6 years ago. I went to film school at Savannah College of Art and Design. I got my master's of fine arts degree there in film and television production, and kind of just fell in love with storytelling. I initially wanted to be an actress all throughout my childhood and kind of went through that path on the independent route, but which eventually led me to film school. And I just realized how many there's just not a lot of diversity behind the camera, and there's not a lot of people that are able to just tell a wide range of different stories. So I just kind of threw myself into the behind the scenes aspects of like whether it's like writing projects or directing them, the cinematography, etc. Just figuring out how we can make sure people feel represented on screen because we consume so much of visual media, and it really has an impact on society and the way that the generations perceive themselves, perceive the things around them. And sometimes you even see things for the first time, experience things for the first time watching it on TV, and that can really have an impact on somebody's life. So yeah, that's kind of a little bit about me. I do a lot of like commercials, music videos, TV shows, films, and have been able to get my projects in different film festivals, award shows, etc., just to kind of help spread the word and whatnot.
That is a great way to get started. And I think my favorite question to ask people is what inspired them to get started with the work that they're doing and what their path was like to get started with that work. And you already touched on it a little bit, but some people have one moment that really inspires them, while other people have more of a journey to get to that point. So, can you tell me about what your path was like to get to this point now?
I think initially it started off with me watching other people acting on TV, being like, okay, I can do that. I want to do that. And then figuring out, okay, how do we make this happen? And, through all those trial and errors, and then being able to dive into all the different aspects of filmmaking because there's so much of it. And I truly believe that absolutely anybody, could find a career path or some sort of job that they align with within the film, video, entertainment industry. Because there's just so much going on, truly. But yeah, I mean, I grew up in Kuwait. So I went to an international school, and a lot of my friends were from all around the world. So a lot of us just didn't see ourselves in the things that we were watching. We didn't see people that looked like us. We didn't see stories that were like similar to what we were going through. Like it's fun watching, Sweet Life of Zach and Cody, but at the end of the day, who lives in a hotel? So it's like things like that, as small as those things are, it can definitely have an impact on just the way that people go about life in general. And I've also just been really interested in psychology as I've grown up. So I think that, and then just the love of film and television in general, has kind of blended itself for me to kind of figure out, okay, how do we can evoke certain emotions through visual media. And there's a lot of people that have a lot of negative undertones to the things that we're consuming, unfortunately. And so I'm kind of trying to combat that. How do I intentionally put a good undertone, on the things that we're consuming, also make it entertaining, but like have a good message at the end of the day so that like we are consuming something that's for the betterment of society. Yeah, that's what got me here.
Yeah, I think that idea of representation in the media, and especially the media that we consume when we're growing up, is so interesting. So, thank you for talking about that. And as you were growing up, or when you began this work, are there any people, or I know it's a little bit cheesy, but are there any quotes or words of wisdom that really stuck with you and that kept you going in this work? What motivated you?
I think that it's probably in the same alignment of just trying to normalize different aspects of life, just trying to represent. Um, and I think for me, since I've been able to figure out how to do it, and I've been able to have success with it, now I'm kind of like, okay, well, now that since I have this gift, I have this skill set, what do I do with it? Like there's so much of an impact that we can have. And when you're an artist, you definitely have to sit back and figure out, are you just going to make art to make art, or are you, making it for the world? Or trying to, leave a mark, etc. So I just kind of got to a point where I was like, am I really am I really investing all this energy into something that like has no actual message at all? And it's just like, for the vibe or something, or like, are we actually gonna, you know, put a good foot forward? And don't get me wrong, we can have stuff that's just fun. But I think we also can make a positive impact in the meantime, because there is a lot of chaos going on constantly in our world. So yeah, we need something to kind of take our minds off of it. So I think that kind of just motivates me to. There's just so many stories that are untold, and I'm like, okay, let's go ahead and tell them. Like, I don't know what we're waiting on at this point.
I love that, and I love the idea of storytelling and just how important that is. I really resonate with that. So, if you can tell me, don't tell me anything that's a secret, but I would love to know what you're working on now and maybe what's coming up for you in the future. What are you working on at this moment, and what are you looking forward to?
Yeah, I actually recently acted in a feature film called Ugly Sweater. We filmed it in Boston last year, so I was also an associate producer for that project. But we just had our world premiere at the Boston International Film Festival a couple weeks ago, so that went really well. And they were just in a festival in Iowa, somewhere, and we're hopeful that, it has a good festival run and that we find distribution so that hopefully it can be on Hulu or Netflix or something, so that more people can watch it, because it's a very fun and informative project. And it has stop motion animation in it, which is kind of cool. I feel like we don't see a lot. And outside of that, there's just a lot of things that I'm just trying to get out of my hard drives from like the past year or so. I feel like as filmmakers, we make a lot of things, but we don't always execute all the way and put the thing out. So I've just been trying to work on that a lot more. Just keep pushing it out. Like, don't think too much about it. Just on to the next. Like, just keep working the muscle, if you will. Yeah, and just I have a series called Prom that I am submitting to different grants and fellowships to get funding so that we can make the project. So I'm really excited about that.
That is so exciting. Can you tell me a little bit more about Ugly Sweater?
Yeah, so it is a queer drama feature film. It was actually my friend's thesis film for Emerson. She got her master's there, Lauren Musgrove. And the project is created by Purple Magnet Productions, women-led production company. But Ugly Sweater is basically about this young girl who was going through the anxieties of uh, finishing school, senior year, um, romantic relationships, friendships, family, but mostly the anxiety of being, perfect student, or being the perfect, friend, or being the perfect girlfriend, etc. And so our protagonist kind of goes through a wave of emotions. A lot of it, on the depressive end. In order for me to excel at school, I need to dive fully into that. And that means neglecting other aspects of my life. So we see some of those depressive episodes within the stop motion animation, which is kind of fun. It's like yarn art, I want to say. So it kind of floats in and out of imagination and reality, which I think I just feel like we don't see too much of that with like independent projects. But I play her older sister, her wise older sister that she looks up to, but is also kind of envious of. But that's mostly just from an outside perspective of just not realizing that everybody is human, and It's okay to go through different things and you can ask for help and etc.
That sounds so interesting, and thank you for sharing a little bit more about that project. So, I have one more question for you. Lots of young people want to create change and make a difference, but they may not know how to get started with that work. What advice do you have for those people who may be listening?
Yeah, from my experience is we really a lot of times we have to just figure it out ourselves, unfortunately. There's so many different paths to getting something accomplished, so I think it's important to really figure out what it is you're trying to accomplish. I like to kind of work backwards. Once I figure out what the thing is, then it's like, okay, what are ways that have worked in the past to get to this conclusion? What are things that we have access to? But another thing is, a lot of people, more people are helpful than you realize. So, for example, if you wanted to be a director and you had a favorite director, you in theory could find them on LinkedIn or find them on social media and reach out to them, and they might respond. Why not? A lot of people, especially working people, if their account is open to the public, most people will respond. Oddly enough, and if you just ask someone to meet for coffee or something, and just be sincere and just tell them what's going on, and you might be able to just they might be able to help you down that path. So yeah, it's really important to ask for help. But sometimes we have to like there's not people that know how to help us, unfortunately. So it's a lot of work.
I really enjoyed talking with Mya-Breyana, and I think her work is so different from past guests of the podcast, and it was so interesting to learn about. I really liked her advice about figuring out what we want and working backwards, because I think that makes so much sense. Take a big goal and break it down into smaller chunks, and then start working your way back to what you should be doing at this moment. Change comes when we work backwards. Thank you so much for listening to this episode, and you can find Mya-Breyana on Instagram at maya.bree to get connected with her and follow along with all of the work she's doing. If you want to talk about anything I mentioned, please reach out to me by email at lily@bethechangepodcast.org or on Instagram at Be The Change Media Network. I am working on expanding Be The Change Media Network, which means bringing you more inspiring stories from amazing guests. If you enjoyed this episode, I would really appreciate it if you could leave the podcast a rating and a comment, because it will really help these stories to reach, educate, and inspire more people. And I would also love to hear your thoughts and feedback. Tune in for my next episode, but until then, be the change you wish to see in the world. Bye, guys.